Any questions about the assignment? There's an email address in the announcements section of the website. No, because I have to distribute them with ETA, so I'm gonna have to upload it myself. So,
do you want just one file, or do you want?
One file is better. One file. Sorry? What's not possible? Don't send more than one. You can always compile them into a zip or a single PDF. But if you have more than one, that's not a problem. More questions? Are you all done, more or less? Yes? No? Doesn't matter? See? Okay. One more thing. Thursday night, the assignment is due, and then immediately we start the second assignment about the Stratford Festival. Not this Thursday, but the following Thursday, on the 7th, we'll have the visit of Anita Gaffield, the executive director of the festival. So before that, we need the teams made. Okay? So what I would like to ask you is that you send to the same email address, you send the teams by next Tuesday. Okay? You have to send the names and the faculties. Yes?
How many people?
4 or 5. And boys and girls and 2 faculties at least represented in the team. Those are the only 2 rules. Okay? If you don't have a team, we'll assign you to a team during that week. That's why we need it as soon as possible. Okay? Questions about that? No? Everything fine? Okay. So I'm gonna go through some basic concepts about web architecture and apps architecture, because when some of you were talking to me about your projects, you were assuming certain things about budget and technical knowledge and technical architecture that you needed for your projects. But in some cases, there was a huge mismatch between what you wanted to do and what you thought that you needed for the project. So I don't know if some of you already know all this. If there's something that you don't understand, just stop me and we'll ask some of the experts in the team. But at least you will have an idea of what is it that you have to do in order to accomplish certain things. Okay? So we're going to divide the presentation in 2 sections. One is web architecture, and the other is about apps for smartphones. And we'll give several sizes or several complexities in the kind of technology that you need. Okay? We don't have many examples here, but if you want to ask about some specific brand or website or app that you know, and you would like to know to what model of this would apply, just ask and we'll try to figure it out, okay, if we don't know the website. So if you have taken some of the basic courses in computer science, some of the introductions to do something, for instance, with Dreamweaver, normally what you have learned to do is this kind of basic website, okay? In this basic website, what you have is a static server serving the pages, and 3 and let's say 4 main components, okay? The content is tagged using HTML, okay? That's something that you have done probably with either pure HTML or Dreamweaver. Then you have learned, I guess, that on a different set of files, you have to create the CSS files. Those are the cascade style sheets that are what gives the aspect to the website. So one of the main principles in web architecture is that you have the content on one side and you have the style or the design or the aspect on a different side. Okay? And you have to keep them separate. That's one of the basic things. The idea is that no matter what content you use, you can reuse the styles. For instance, if you decide that you want to use, let's say, this blue color and certain font for links within the website, if you separate the styles and apply that style to all hyperlinks that you have, you don't need to change it for every single page of content. That's why one of the basic rules is that you keep separate CSS from HTML. Okay? HTML is the markup language that you use to tell the content and the server if you are separating things in a paragraph and all those kind of things. How you, if this is a this is not a question. If this is bold or not bold, all those things. Okay. So that's the first important distinction. CSS, HTML. This is important, CSS, because this normally and throughout the presentation will correspond to a very specific professional profile, that of the designer in a team. Okay? Not only a designer who is very good with a pencil, with a pen, a designer who is able to translate those images or those ideas into a certain style that you see on a website. Okay? Good designers are really hard to find. So it's a very important and demanded profession these days. Normally, the simplest, the better. Very good designers, remember always the style of iPhone and Apple, is because they use as fewer things as possible. Okay? To both have a very good design and very good user interaction, user experience. Then you have, for instance, images as part of the content, and then you have JavaScript, which is a scripting language for the website to produce interactions with a user. Okay? Then you have everything, the client, where you have the interaction you're computing, connecting to the server, which will serve the pages that you have created or someone have created. And then you have a domain name for that page. Okay? So this is the most basic website. Of course, in the most basic format, you don't even need JavaScript. Just with the CSS, HTML, and some images, you have a plain website. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So let's go to the medium, the basic website with example of UW personal web pages. Do you know that the university offers a service for you to use this server, publish.uw.ca, and some space for free for faculty and students to have their professional pages? What you have is, or you have to create, you have always first an index HTML page, your style files, your pictures if you want, and this, I guess, is the main JavaScript file. Okay, but the same thing, a static server and not much interaction. And then for all uw.ca pages, this is the domain name that you get. publish.uwo.ca / this little thing and your username of the email account. Okay, does anyone use this? Okay.
We use it in our computer science, like multimedia class.
Okay, to create your own pages and all that. Okay. So this is the basic thing. How do you start with all this? And of course, you can get this kind of pages in many services beyond the university. Things that you can pay for or are given to you with certain subscriptions and all that. Medium website. Now I need my notes because this is too difficult for me. Okay. What we have now is what we have before, a static server This is all this left square, in which you have the presentation of the site. Style for design, the images, JavaScript for some interaction, and the HTML to show things on the web. Okay? But now, on the server side, we have this thing called the business logic that relies on a certain kind of web architecture called MVC, Model View Control Architecture. Okay? Then you have the API or APIs, Application Programming Interfaces. We'll go into that in a moment. And then some standards for scripts to interact from the server. Okay? The model view controller is the most extended web architecture for the web these days. Okay? You have the data models that you're going to use. You have the different views that the user will get. And you have the controllers sending information to both the models and the views. Okay? Then you have APIs. APIs are little packages of software that allow you to interact with third-party software, with third-party websites. For instance, if you have seen the Doctor Learning map application, okay? Those activities in which you have to do something with a map. The map software is not ours, it's Google's, okay? And Google, like many other big companies, because they want people to use the services, have a certain amount of APIs, application programming interfaces that allow programmers to access those services through certain protocol and certain rules that Google or Yahoo or other services or the New York Times let you use for those objectives. Okay? Questions here? No? Okay? Then what is more important, when you go to a Medium website, you have another server for the database. For instance, if you are registering information about the users, the personal information, or you are running an e-commerce application, or you are running Facebook and you want to know everything about the users and what they are doing, you have to store that somewhere and being able to access it, to give it either to your programmers or the users in the cases that the service allows for that. Then you need this database server, okay? And if you want the system to communicate with the users, you need a different server, a mail server, okay? Then you have a main domain and many subdomains of the kind that we have seen when you have the special pages for publish.uw.ca. And you have to manage all of them, okay? Because each of them will, at the end of the day, direct you to a different URL, okay? Questions here? In any business or any web service in which you want to use the user's information for matching, for sending them publicity according to the preferences, for any of those things, you have to scale the thing up to this level. You need the business logic, of course you always need the presentation, and you're going to need the database and the mail server, okay? Of all these parts, if I'm not wrong, for instance, for the website that we have built for the courses, we're using all of these except the mail server. Do we have mail server? Okay. Medium website, the Doctor Learning website that you are seeing or you are not seeing because you can be interacting with it through the smartphone app. We have the static server. we have a Nginx dynamic server. We have a framework to control the MVC logic that we apply here to players' courses, course creations, and URLs. Okay? Then we have the REST architecture and a special kind of database, the PostgreSQL, which is hosted in Heroku. It's a service similar to Amazon. And then we have another part of the architecture in the Amazon's Elastic Cloud service. All those things have to be managed, okay? So we have, when we talk about the CSS files, we were talking about the designer. For all the other things we are talking on this side about programmers, knowing in our case JavaScript, Python, which is a very common programming language these days and relatively easy to learn. And then Django, which is a framework based on Python to control the MVC model. Okay? And then you have the databases, in this case is SQL, and their relationship with Heroku, with Amazon, and with all the servers. You have the designer. For all the programming, you have the programmers, and then you have a third figure, a third professional figure, which is the systems administration, who is normally a programmer with special abilities to deal and manage all those relationships. Okay? Even if you have this hosted in external services, because it's a pain to run all these things, and in our case, having the servers here in the university is not very useful for different reasons, you have to be able to do many things with this. You have to really know how these things work, and you really need to know systems administration. Okay? External services, we are referring here to the APIs that we are accessing? Okay. For instance, the Google Maps or some of the other things we are accessing for people to be able to do the activities. Okay. For any questions about the different kinds of and sizes of the websites? No? Okay. And the full design without maintenance of a medium-sized website would be around, I don't know, depending on what you are doing, $30,000, $50,000. Okay, for 4 to 6 months of work of a team. If you hire a company to develop you the whole thing. Okay, more or less. Depending on the complications, but 30 to 50, 4 to 5, 6 months of work. Yeah, Priya.
So that includes, you said like 30 to 50,000. Does that include the programmers like paying them salary? Or is that just like the website?
No, it's everything. Let's say that if you don't want to do it, you have an idea, but you don't want to do it yourself. Yeah. You go to a web developing company and you tell them, I want this in 4 months or 6 months, and they will give everything to you. Everything. The problem you have later is maintenance.
Okay, so do you have to pay a certain like fee each month for it to keep running, or?
Not to keep it running. Exactly. It's to maintain the databases. It will work for you.
Like you go completely external and get someone else to make your website for you.
Yeah.
Will the company keep maintain it for you, or
some companies offer those services? Okay. Yes. Javier, you're gonna say something?
You also have to pay for the infrastructure. When you have the website running, you also have to pay for the machines.
Amazon or Heroku or wherever your information is going to be hosted. Okay, and for that there are many prices. Now they are working as per usage. So depending on how many interactions your users have with the services, they charge you an amount. Now, how much we are paying?
$50 per hour.
$50 per hour. Okay.
If you were to get the website made externally and then you have your own internal group that manages it, is that okay?
That's a good idea. There is always an important part, which is that you want to have the information about the users to be able to do business analytics and users analytics and all those things. Okay, so you want to have some control over the information there. Sorry?
So just to be clear, the Course Culture Plex website, is that
like what this is about? Like you guys paid $30,000 for that?
No, no.
You make that yourself?
No, we did that ourselves.
So you made that takes like 3 to 6 months kind of thing?
Depending on how many people you have in the team. What we have done there is we have deployed the free software of the infrastructure for mock courses developed in the open domain, open software, and we have adapted it to our needs.
Okay.
Okay. How long did it take for Jaco to develop the whole infrastructure for the MOOCs? Yeah, for the open MOOC.
3 months.
3 months, 5 people working full time,
Yeah, I think so.
more or less. Normally it's 1 designer, 1 sysadmin, and 3 programmers, depending on
Another one translating the design into the CSS.
into the CSS. Okay. There were more questions there. Any more questions? Okay, for apps, smartphone apps. You have the design, you have the assets you're going to use, and you have the code. Okay. The code can be native or can be cross-platform. Native means that you are writing your app in the language of the app store you are going to upload it to. Okay? We'll talk about Blackberry if you want, but there are 2 main languages. One is the language used by Apple for the iOS operating systems, which is called Objective-C. Okay? For most of the developers, it's a pain there, but if you write an application in Objective-C for the App Store, it looks really nice because you are using all the elements that Apple gives you, let's say, preset. Okay? The second main programming language for apps is Java, which is used for Android, for the Google brand of operating software, and that you will upload to the Play Store. It's called Google's Play Store. Okay, both Java for Android and Objective-C for iOS are native languages for those apps. Okay, then you can develop in another system and use a service like PhoneGap to make it cross-platform. Okay, and then you can deploy it in iOS, in Android, in Windows, in Nokia, in Symbian, in any of the operating systems you have there. Okay, it's better to do it cross-platform depending on what your customer segments will be and the money you have. Okay, if you do it natively, you have to rewrite almost the whole application every single time you do it in a different native language. If you do it cross-platform, you write the theme more or less once, and then the problem is that it's not so nice because it's not customized completely for any of the stores. Okay, and then you have to upload it to the market, which is a painful process, let's say, but it's not difficult. It's just painful. Well, sometimes it's a little difficult. Okay, because there are so many rules and so many steps, and I don't know. If you upload it to the Apple Store, it will take 3, 4, 5 days because they review every single one, they approve it. If you upload it to the Android market, it will show almost immediately because they have the rule of not reviewing anything. Okay, making it more open. It's a competition between 2 models, Apple and Google, and each of them is following and pushing for certain things. For instance, a Compass app, that there are hundreds of them in any of the markets. You have a style, you have an image, you have Java if you're using Android, okay, and upload it to the Play Store. A Medium app, you have the design, have the assets, the code, Java or Objective-C, and the API client, Medium website, API to interact with external services, a domain, and also the market. Okay? that you will have to upload it, market or markets, you will upload it to. Instagram is one of these medium apps. So you have the api.instagram.com. I haven't used this, so I don't really know how it works. You have this model for the iOS, style, images, Objective-C, and REST client to manage the relationship between the clients, the phones, and the servers. And the same thing for Android, except that you're writing in Java. iTunes or App Store and Play Store here. Okay? I think that's it. Any questions? As of last year, we asked a small company working out of Wealth about writing something for us in iOS, basically doing the Dr. Learning native app for iOS, because we were working in another language. And they said that it would take them 3 to 4 months, and they would charge $30,000. Okay, it's a medium-size, Dr. Learning medium-size kind of app. So those are the prices, more or less. And then, of course, we will have to manage the servers and everything from the moment they release it to us. Any questions as applied to your projects or in general?
Is it custom to have an app now when you have a website?
Sorry, what's that?
Is it custom to have an app with a website? So say your project is a website. Is it kind of like more or less good to have an app that goes with it?
It depends on the strategy. The web is one channel. If you think that you're going to get more people, you need to have a different strategy for the apps, how you're going to make money, balance what's going to cost you, and maintain it, and what you're going to get from there. There are people who say that we're already going past the phase of apps, but there are many people giving opinions about everything. The other important thing is that this last week, Mozilla, Firefox, the makers of Firefox, started releasing their mobile operating system, because they are launching phones and operating systems basically for emerging countries, but they are going to run it also in Europe and North America. Okay? And they already have the test phones out there. What they propose is that instead of creating apps to run through app stores controlled by these companies, you create the apps in a system called web app, okay, that allows the phones to run apps in the browsers. Okay, of course, Mozilla is all about the open web and their own browser, Firefox. So that's why they want to go around the control and the monopoly of Google and Apple. Okay, in that case, more or less, if you are able to develop the web app, you are able to run it in the browser, in the computer, and in the telephone with just one shot. So the time of development is much shorter, and you reach almost all segments, because anyone can access the app through the browser in the phones, more or less, because Safari will give some problems and all that. But you have Firefox, you will see it as an app there. Okay? So there's another player in the game now. Basically, they are launching a brand of cheap smartphones, around $100, for markets in Brazil and India and South Africa to start. Okay? More questions? Patrick?
Why would you spend $30,000 on an app when you could just get the individual parts to build it for you and work together for a lot cheaper? Like use one of those websites that you can find a designer or find a front-end developer and a back-end developer.
I think that if you put all that together, probably will cost you the same thing. If you hire them separately, it will be more.
A lot cheaper. I don't know. I have a friend. He just spent $700, and he didn't even make the app icon himself. He paid someone $60 in like Korea to design it for him, and it looks great.
It depends on the size of the app. for that price,
Obviously, a small app, no.
yeah, depends on what you want to do. If it's a simple service, you can go with that.
$30,000 is like a good price for that kind of an app, or do you think with more research you can find it for cheaper? If you don't,
In Canada, it's going to be difficult because labor here is expensive.
so you can outsource it.
You cannot source it. You lose control, and you have to know where you're going to source it. For instance, Argentina, very good programmers, or India.
Well, like the websites have like someone and it has all their ratings like on eBay based on all the other apps they've designed. So like you can see if someone's talented and just get the prices yourself.
Yeah, the only thing is you know there are a lot of forums of developers and people who have been hiring outside, so you have to be sure about what you are doing.
Have you looked at them, if you don't mind me asking?
Yes.
And what's your conclusion?
Our conclusion at this point is that either we build it in-house or we collaborate with people that we know personally.
I thought you didn't do either of those and paid someone else.
No, we just ask about the price, but we didn't hire them.
But you didn't even end up hiring them.
No.
There are better ways.
Yes.
So you do suggest to look online at these websites as opposed to spending.
No, but the thing is that I did it with my team at the lab. The only thing there is that we stopped doing other things. It's a matter of priorities. So we asked because we were running several projects at the same time. We were running late. So we wanted to know how much would cost us.
You ended up doing it yourself?
Yeah.
And how much did it cost you guys, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I don't know. I will have to compute.
Was it less than $30,000?
If I put together all the salaries, how much? Yeah, probably a little less. And the thing is that we did it cross-platform. So we're serving all the markets.
So you did well.
We just started. Okay, more questions? Just be aware of the size. Be aware of what you need to do what you are trying to build.
If there's a website component to our business or whatever, do you want us to include this kind of info, or can we just I just talked about a quote and then left it at that?
Okay, there are two things. One is, do you know what is behind it so you can budget it accordingly?
Yeah.
And the second thing is, who are you going to work with? Those kind of questions have come out several times when we're talking to several of you.
Okay.
So you can try to get someone from computer science, you can try to partner with someone and you give him or her part of the company.
So if I know a developer that my friend's used before in the past, can I just write that, or how do you want me to?
Yeah, okay. Budget it realistically.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Okay.
Is that what the personal business plan is supposed to be for? Is some kind of a web or an app?
No.
Yeah.
Can be your career or can be any other thing.
Can be anything?
Yeah, but there were several people who were doing web development for products or services. So.
Okay.
Do you want an exact company if we say another company's making it? Do you want us to put research into that? Or
What
just
do you
say
mean?
a company's making the website, we're paying them this much to make it?
That's okay. The only thing is you have to specify what you are ask them to do.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah.
Just to build off that one question. So even though if it's not a web-based or app-based career that you want, do you want an aspect of it? Do you want us to touch upon it? Or
if you don't need it, no. There's no need.
Okay.
It's only if you are building something that will need something like that.
It's I feel like there's a bit of an emphasis on the budget of things, but what if we weren't do just ballpark some of the costs and the estimates, the expenses?
Do some research if possible, so the ballpark is close to the park. Okay.
I just wanted to mention to everyone, if you are doing a website, there's a free hosting company. It's called Wix.com. You can make a website. You can add apps to it. Basically, do all this, and it's free hosting. I made one in 3 hours. So if you're using that for building a website, it's Wix.com.
Okay. Sunny.
Sorry, do you usually have to have a confidentiality agreement or a pact before you approach the company who runs it for you?
That depends on the company. In many cases, they won't sign it. I guess that you can include it in the contract. Okay.
Just like a mixed study
You can just advance a little bit. That you will need an e-commerce site or whatever it's going to be. Okay?
Yeah, I have a decent answer for that. Often the contract they give you, they'll have a section where they're saying that all the work we do on your site is property of you, but there's actually very specific wording that you need to use if you want to know it. It's I assign all right and title of my work product to, and then your company's name. Like it's I don't know, I just went to a clinic, it's like very specific wording you need to use.
Okay.
But yeah.
Alright.
More questions, comments?
I know.
Just any other, I know I've been using Code Academy to learn, like I said, HTML, CSS. Are there any other websites that you would suggest, or is that a good start?
To learn, I think it's a very good start. There's always the W3 schools, which are sort of, and for specific languages, almost all of them have their own communities, and which you can find answers to almost any question.
The reason why
Stack Overflow is a very good asset for any kind of thing related to programming, especially Python, but all languages, I think.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I just find I'm starting to do JavaScript now. I haven't really looked into it since the break, but I have been CSS and have been HTML, and so far I've done it. That was from Code Academy.
From Code Academy, yeah. Of course, the more you know about any of those things, the better you will be when you are talking to people, because you will be able to ask for specific things.
I think my next step is to like actually kind of create something. I'm just trying to think about an idea where I can start uploading on the website, so I can learn how to do it, and I can kind of adjust it as I'm going.
Yeah, try to get a personal project going so that you are forced to apply all those skills. Okay, any more questions here? No? Okay, so let's go back to Agile. Hey, what's going on today? It's sort of down. The weather or the assignments? Okay, I think that we stop here. Last time we have to assemble the teams again. We're gonna go through this and apply at the end a couple of different methodologies, Scrum and Kanban, to your work. Okay, this is the model we're gonna follow starting next week to propose the solutions to the Stratford and Royal Bank problems. Okay, so that's why we're gonna keep working on this and try to fully develop the model of methodology that we're going to use so that you can start and write off next week. Okay, so teams are not including because you don't have the time or the resources. A few things that you haven't decided on yet. Okay, then we'll put that into what it's called sprints of development, so that we adjust the times and how you plan to deploy all the needs that you think that you need. Okay. So 3 boxes: in, out, and result. Okay. Okay, listen up. We're gonna start with the presentations of this first exercise. Hey. The important thing is that you give the reasons as to why you chose to include or not include things. If people from other groups disagree, just raise your hands and we can discuss reasons and who is more accurate and why you establish those priorities. Okay? So, Priya.
Okay, so for us, we first went over things that are unresolved. So we've done that the website needs to be more user-friendly and have like a better user interface so that it's more reliable. So like you can go on and like look for something directly and not have to like search too hard to find what you need. We also think a couple of things that are unresolved is that I don't know, like one thing that we were considering is maybe connecting it to OWL, because OWL is the database that we use for most of our other classes. So if we could even get notifications through OWL or something, just to make it so like we don't have to go to a separate website just for this class.
Okay.
One thing that we do want to include is a FAQ on the website, so just like frequently asked questions where people can even like contribute their own things. a user tutorial video. So for any like things on the website that might be unsure for students, they can have like tutorial videos. A summary page, so like the main page for it to be more structured. So like homework can be in one section, like readings in another section, just to make the user interface better so you don't have to go searching. And a calendar on the front page with important dates for due dates or presentations or like what to expect in class.
You're talking about the course website?
Yeah.
Not the app?
No. Are we supposed to do it for the app?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, but for the app even, we can make it more user-friendly.
Anything can be more user-friendly.
I meant the app. And the app can the app can also just be more user-friendly by having like a main page. So like every week you can say what things you're supposed to complete, not just like the different levels like randomly showing up, and like, you don't really know when they're going to show up. We need to think a little more about what we can include. But yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Have you calculated any of those things? How long does it take to do? Have you calculated how long does it take to do?
Well, to make a user tutorial video for the app, I doubt will take too long. Like, I'm sure we could do it in like one setting. To make a calendar, we would just have to contact the developers and see if they could add it. So all the things are pretty short term, I would say.
Okay. Except the connection with OO.
Yeah, the connection with OWL will probably be like a long-term goal.
Okay. Okay. Who wants to continue? Hey, come on, next group. I am doing this with you on Thursday, your assignment, so feel free. Too bad.
What was the question?
Come on.
So our app was class, and the one main thing we did differently was we made it so that every single teacher could use the app, put in their multiple choice questions, and their students could download it to their phone, and maybe it could replace 10% of their participation mark. It could be additional to that. They answer these questions on their phone, because I really like the idea of doing homework on your phones. If that's how you procrastinate anyway, people might like that. So instead of just this class, we make the app available to other classes. So we made a really big total list of all these crazy things we wanted to do. And we're actually in the middle of making a not list, the out of scope. On our out of scope list, we have.
Well, we're not going to be a replacement for OWL. We actually also have the same idea of connecting to OWL so that your marks will be right up there. We're not replacing textbooks and we're not replacing lectures either. However, what we think is in scope.
Or slash what's unresolved. We're not sure if we want to do if we want it to replace the official clicker.
Or also there was a possibility of maybe having like a textbook trading section, something like that. Or discussion boards where, you know, if you're in the class, you could kind of discuss about the different questions and stuff on there.
Okay.
We have some more unresolved things.
We also had the idea of push notifications for
yeah, like a new quiz goes up.
Yeah, okay.
like quizzes.
The person, yeah, okay. Okay, any questions or comments about them? Oops.
Our list wasn't quite as long. For our in-scope, we wanted a better login, like a cloud login, so that when you log in, it's like a profile on the computer and sync with your phone, rather than having to do it separately. And user interface a little more clear, and notifications for updates for when there's announcements coming up. Instructions. Sometimes it's a little unclear what's supposed to happen next or how you're supposed to do that, so instructions would be helpful. Out of scope, we said, would be, you know, monetary prizes for any of the quizzes. And unresolved was Blackberry platform, whether or not that would be a worthwhile considering the state of RIM and how small Blackberry's app market is.
Okay. Any opinions about Blackberry?
Sucks.
We are launching a new product and operating system on Thursday. Tomorrow, the 1st. Yeah. Opinions about Blackberry? Someone supports development for Blackberry. Who's got a Blackberry? But do you want support for Blackberry or you don't care? You purchase.
I had a debate over Christmas because I wanted to get a new phone, but then I heard that Blackberry would launch its new phone in January. Then I thought to myself, why would they wait over the holidays to launch something? They might have something really good, right? Because all the sales and everything would be going against it. And then I looked at it. I looked at reviews for like the operating system and the finishing. It looks great. So.
It's nice. I saw it on last Saturday. But I didn't play with it alone, but it looks better than the actual phones. Okay. Okay, any more thoughts about Blackberry? Would you develop your product for them? Who is opposed to Blackberry? You wouldn't develop anything for Blackberry?
I wouldn't, unless I haven't seen the Blackberry 10 yet, though. But I don't think that you can like rely.
It just doesn't have the capabilities of the other
I don't use that many apps on my Blackberry. It's more
Okay. So
I just want to throw out there that
please.
a lot of the reasons why I wouldn't use Blackberry for apps is because like the touch screen and the size of the big screen makes it a lot easier to use on an iPhone or an Android, but like you have to navigate with the trackpad on Blackberry. It's really difficult. But this new one, I just saw it looks like it's
a touch
screen, yeah. But it's only one phone, one type of Blackberry, so.
Okay. Okay.
The problem with developing for BlackBerry actually is that they have so many different models of phones, and it's not like a unified framework across all the phones. You have to develop the app like for each individual model of phone, which is a lot of work and really annoying. So if you're going to do it, then you would have to like pick the most common model or something that like that most people have, and just go with that, because it would be way too much work to do it for every single.
For the 7 version and the 10 version and all those, yeah. Okay, I agree.
Well, you said that the cost weren't that high because it's cross.
In this case, because it's cross-platform.
So if you've already made an app for Android or iPhone, then it's kind of like a why not for BlackBerry then?
Yeah.
Because if your costs aren't that high, then you might as well satisfy the remaining users.
The only problem you can have is maintenance, that you start having problems with that sector of the users, and that you have to devote too much resources to solve all the bugs and of that specific platform. But in developing time, it's already done. It's only packaged in the form they want it and upload it. Yeah, good point. Phil?
On that point about developing for BlackBerry, though, don't you run into the same problem with Android? So,
yeah.
I mean, I know that there's been research groups before that have just done an infograph where they put every single Android device on a board and table, and it filled the entire thing, and they said, when you develop that app, you have to be able to fix the bugs for every single one of those different devices.
I think that
contrasting with Apple, where it's one device.
Yeah, I think that we are developing, starting with certain level of the operating system, for Android. Version 12. So it's only for devices that run on 12 or later, because otherwise it's crazy. It's impossible. They're so different. Yeah. Good point too. Jenny.
I like my BlackBerry, and I looked at BlackBerry 10, and they definitely improved a lot. And they're coming out with actually like 6 phones this year, so if you already said that there's only one phone, they are coming out with 6 different models this year, but the one that everybody's using, that's just their first one, and their software is definitely going compared to the previous ones, and as well.
Okay, thank you.
Just wanted to elaborate with the Android issue versus the BlackBerry issue. Like with Android, from my understanding, it's like the new operatings and stuff, they have new APIs and things like that. If you develop with that, you have to be careful that you wouldn't use something that's not in the lower operating system. But if you develop it to work for a lower operating system, there's backwards compatibility so that the newer ones can use it too. Whereas my point with the BlackBerry was it's completely different between the different phones. It's not an operating system issue. It's like it's
more similar with Androids. it's more similar with Androids than with the Blackberries. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. More comments.
BlackBerry has this really cool thing for developers, or RIM does right now, where if you submit an app to the App Store and it makes, let's say, over $1,000 but under $10,000, they'll pay you the difference.
Or today? Really?
Let's say your app makes $1,100, they'll pay you, or sorry, yeah, $1,100, they'll pay you $9,000.
Up to 10,000. Okay, good to know. Okay.
I was just going to say, I think as like Canadian developers, I think it'd be good to try and support Canadian businesses like BlackBerry.
Okay, that's another important point. Okay. Anyone against that idea? Be brave.
I'm just wondering, has anybody like tried the pen? Has anybody like tried pen like that? Because like when they first came out with their first touch phone, it was crap. Like the Storm, the original one, it was garbage. So like I used to have a BlackBerry too. I had a 9700 for like 2.5 years, and then like it was just like everything was going wrong with BlackBerry. Like they delayed the pen, they delayed this, they delayed that. Like I'm just like I'm not gonna like put up with this anymore. It's just so frustrating.
Yep.
And then on the other side is that as well. Like BlackBerry's only gonna come out with like 70,000 apps, whereas Apple's already got like 300,000. You know what I mean? So.
But you have to think in terms of not as a user. You're putting out your business, and you have to know what's more convenient for you. So it depends on the. Don't think you are not Apple, you are not Google, you are not BlackBerry. So it's what's more important for you.
Yeah, but you're the customer, right? So like you should know. Like I kind of like when I see that, and I'm like, okay, what does everybody else have? Everybody else has iPhones right now.
Yeah, but the thing, what do you have to do to get into the 10 first positions in the App Store? It's realistic to think that you're going to get there so that people will see you. Or Android, so you have the two things. It's really, with so many apps out there, are you going to be noticed?
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to play with both things. There are millions of.
Nobody has the phones, they're not going to use it anyways, right?
But maybe what you want is 30,000 users for your business, and they are, I don't know, imagine that they are companies or they are business-related people who use BlackBerry. It's not that I'm in favor, but you have to think, what's your channel? And how are you going to be noticed?
I don't think they still have $2 billion in cash, but like you're facing off against Google and Apple, like, which absolutely murder you in terms of capex and like everything. They have way more cash. You know what I mean? So like, how do you even compete? Like $2 billion, like don't get me wrong, it's a lot of money, but still, like it's not that much in terms of companies.
That's an important point. But then the question is,
how do you even market? Like you can't. How do you?
But then, what do Canadian entrepreneurs do? You just give up right now, because anything you do here, you're going to have an American company with double the money, triple the money, and the resources, and they're going to kill you.
It's a crappy situation. Like they were on top of it, and then they just got like, I guess it was like they got too caught up with being at the top, and they got absolutely destroyed. So
yeah, the challenge that many companies are facing is really up to them to compete with the States, with companies in the States.
It's not fair though either. Like all the small companies want to go to the States because that's where the funding is, right?
Or they want to be bought out.
Even though the Prime Minister is trying to make efforts to like put money into the economy for these small businesses, like it's still nothing compared to the States.
Yeah.
Especially with the Jobs Act coming in. So.
But we're a different country and society and all those things.
Yeah, no, I know. But as a small company, like if you have an opportunity to go to the States and get funding, why wouldn't you do that when you're trying to fight for the minimal, or not the minimal, but the small amount of funding that's here?
Yeah, that's an important thing that you have to answer. Yeah. Probably in business, it makes much more business sense to go to the States. Yeah. But again, do we do anything here? Because you can say the same thing about universities. We're going to try to spend, I don't know, $30,000 here when if you spend $80,000, you get a degree from Harvard. And that will really give you a job, well, more, but whatever it is. You cannot compete in any terms with those big institutions. Universities, sports, businesses.
I don't know, like it just depends like what you're looking for. Like for me, I didn't even think about going to the States because I was just like, we have good education here. Why would I go to the States? Like, you know what I mean? We actually probably have better education here on average in the States.
But it's the same thing. Are you not be able to compete with a graduate from Harvard or Stanford?
When you apply to a graduate school in America, they raise your amount 10%.
Okay.
And I think of undergrad too.
Undergrad, when you're Canadian, they raise your amount because our education system's better.
Mm-hmm. But still, the problem is the same.
Well, it shouldn't really matter, right? It's like, where can you learn best? Really, it shouldn't.
No, but you are not you're not using the same argument for the business. If you are able to run your company mid-size here with Canadian people, Canadian funding, where are you going to go to the States?
You can't really.
Yeah.
But like as an investor, when you're looking at that, and they're saying, no, I want to stay. Like, let's stay in Canada, and they know all the opportunities in the States. Like, why wouldn't they encourage you to go to the States? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and that's a reality most people are facing these days. Why stay here?
Yeah, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of things I don't like about the States, but in terms of business, it doesn't really. It depends what your company is, but like I would say from what my experience is, it wouldn't make any sense to just stay in Canada.
Yeah, that's an important point. It's a real issue that many people are facing. Stay here or not, and under which conditions? Yeah. Okay, more things about the in and out. Who hasn't talked yet? Hasn't talked yet?
For InScope, we wanted to redesign the user interface so it's easier to use and navigate.
How did you? Some people have said that. How did you put that into 3 things? 3 specific things.
Well, like describe 3 things that we would change.
In the interface.
At the bottom, you know how on the iOS music app there's like playlist music or playlist artists like all at the bottom?
The menu?
Yeah, the little menu, we would add that for different sections for like, I don't know, incomplete quizzes.
Okay.
Or like completed quizzes, grades or whatever. We would also add tutorial videos, so that would be another section.
What's the problem with tutorial videos in apps for smartphones?
Added? Flashback?
Flashback, and in terms of keeping people in your app, where are you gonna
Can still be in the app, but like
no, you cannot be. You have to get out of the app because you want to upload it into YouTube probably.
Can't use the API for that. Stay in the app.
Can you stay in the app within?
Not that insane. No.
So it's a matter of do you want to keep users with your app or send them to external content. But those are valid points because
we have a website with the tutorial videos on it.
Okay.
You can do it differently at the same time. Out of scope, we wanted to have the cloud service, but we thought we didn't have the resources for it. We thought it would cost too much money, just because you guys didn't have it, so we thought it would be too much work. Unresolved, we wanted to change our logo and the app icon, but we're just not sure if we want to outsource that or do it ourselves and how much money that would cost. So.
Okay, very good points, all very realistic and decisions you have to make every day.
Also, just to add to like the user part of it, like I have an Android, I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but like I answer a question wrong, it like takes me back like 2 levels and then I have to like go back to, is that how the game works?
No, probably it's a mistake.
That's how mine works. So that would be great if that
Okay. Any other teams left? No? Okay. Let's go to the next part. You are not going to meet your neighbors. You're not meet your neighbors. You are not going to show your solution. Okay, we're going to do 2 things. What are the problems you have that you don't want to talk about with the team? Put it down in a list. The risks you would take, the costs, are those things that you don't dare talking about because it has to do with the professional qualifications of the team or things that you don't like to talk about, but are really risking the project. Okay? And of those risks, which ones do you think are worth taking because of the nature of the project? Okay? This has to do with doing something bold, spending resources on something that you don't know if it's going to pay off or not, all those things, okay? Probably these are the things more importantly for you to answer in the case of Stratford. What do you think that are risks for them worth taking, okay? And try to get it right in terms of that fits with the vision, their vision, the strategy, and all those things, okay? Especially with an organization that has been running for so long, and they're supposed to know how things work in their environment. Identifying this and explaining why they should be able to do it, it's really important, okay? So let's start with that, and then we'll move into the last part. Which is this, okay? Just 5 minutes for the risks, and then we'll move into the users' stories. Okay, listen up. Ghosts, over there, just the ghosts of your team. Please. Ghosts. Sorry. I cannot. Can you repeat, please?
A different level of organizing and time management between members of the company use for us.
How do you think you could solve that?
Well, you just have to keep things more in sync, because once you start expanding and you have a bunch of different areas that you're focused on, you get a lot of bottlenecking, right? And so if we just really dedicate ourselves to keeping everything organized and in sync between the different tasks that are going on as possible, then you can keep everything in motion, everyone working together on the same task.
Okay. Always remember the first idea about having the whole team on the same page at the beginning, so everybody knows what you're doing, and you try to develop the same ethic for all the group, okay? Risks? Olivia?
Risks for us. What keeps us up at night, you heard our long list of ideas, is that we'll spend too much money developing this app, and students won't use all the useful features that we have. Teachers might not buy into it. A lot of professors are old school, and these old school profs might actually end up fighting against the idea of this app. Western might not allow us to integrate it with OWL or with the login system they have. The class falling behind because of system bugs, which, I mean, we're not falling behind if there were a couple system bugs with this one. Yeah, that was it.
Okay, good. Risks worth taking. Good risks.
Redesign the user interface so we make it more accessible for people that want to learn.
Okay.
I think that's a good risk.
One thing I was just thinking is you might want to consider changing the name to something,
Okay.
That's just, I know sometimes you get married to your name. And you,
No.
But yeah.
Okay, good point. Okay, now how do you put all those things that you're gonna do into a specific product log or a list of things? And projects use what they call user stories, and this is what you're going to be using for both projects in the next few weeks. Okay, user stories are very simple ways in 2 sentences of people, users, real customers, or your client telling you what they want in a non-technical language. Okay, there are these 6 elements into any user story, no matter what kind of project you are developing. It's called Invest because the user stories, which you will translate into something that you have to develop or to do for your project, whatever it is, they have to be independent so that you can just work on each of them separately, and getting late or not getting to do some of them wouldn't affect the others. Okay, so if you have a large user story, you have to break it down into things that are manageable within a sprint. A sprint is 2 to 6 weeks of work. Okay? They have to be negotiable in terms of the scope and in terms of where they are in the list of priorities. There are no absolute user stories, no absolute features. Okay? You have to be able to put a value into it. both in terms how long it's going to take and what's the benefit for your company or for your project of adding that element to the project. Okay? You have to be able to estimate how long will it take to implement. That's basic. Okay? And we're again thinking about sprints of 2 to 6 weeks. Think that when you develop the project for Stratford starting next week, you will have 3 weeks to propose whatever you want. And when Anita comes back in a month or so, you will have to give her all the details of how they are supposed to implement that. So you have to be able to estimate how long will it take to implement. They have to be small. Again, you have to be able to develop them in a sprint, in a short sprint. And you have to be able to test them. So you have to build in the way to test what you are trying to put in. Okay? Any questions about this? How do you write them down? With this simple template. Okay? You have your client or your customers, and then they don't have to tell you how to do the login system. They will just say, as a student, I want a login system so that using the app is much easier. Okay? As a spectator in Stratford, I want free courses so that I can understand the place better and I can back. From that, you translate that into all the technical elements of that specific project. If this is a course in Stratford, who's going to teach it? What is the content? How you are going to do it? What is the value of it? How long it's going to take? All those things that we have seen into this part. That they are independent, that you can negotiate them, that they are valuable, that you can estimate how long will it take, that they are small, and you can test them. Okay, so after you write all of them, you have to go back and be able to apply the best elements to the story. Okay, so if we had some time now, the idea would be that you go to another group and ask them to tell you a story. You have seen already many of the features that people want, and you would be able to translate them into that kind of language. Okay? How do you calculate how long or how to estimate a user story? So you are able to plan out. There are 2 main methods with Agile methodology. One is triangulation and the other is planning poker. With triangulation, what you do is you use 3 user stories that you already know how long are going to take, more or less. For instance, you have features that you will be able to develop in 2 weeks. Then others that will take 4 weeks, others will take 6 weeks. What you do from there is with your team, you start assigning the cards to each of the sets, depending on what you think they are going to take. Okay? You will have some experience, you have the whole team, and you decide, okay, the login system, that's going to take 4 weeks, like this one, okay, by analogy. The user interface, 6 weeks. You put it with this most difficult kind of user stories that you already know that will take that much. Okay? For the planning poker, what you do is something similar. Is you have a user story, you have the team, and each member of the team will have a card, and you say login system without any of the other seeing what you write 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then you put it on the table. All the rest of the team will do the same, and then you see all the evaluations that they have done about the time, the estimations, and you start negotiating. I say 3 weeks, he says 4, and he says 1. Probably the 1 is wrong. Okay, so you will talk to them, and then you will decide on a second round of poker what it's going to take, because they have to go back and throw the cards again on the table. And that's how you make the team agree on how long it's going to take. Okay, you don't decide from the top. It's the team who has the experience who's going to decide through either of these methods what's it going to take. Okay? These 2 methods. Any questions so far? Very fast, just to finish. All these can be implemented using very specific methodologies, which are completely developed. And there are manuals and textbooks and many web pages about them. So you can go and look for Scrum or Kanban and use either of them. My recommendation is that for the team projects, you use Scrum. Okay? Both of them are agile methodologies. I'll explain why. Okay, in the Scrum methodology, you have team functions and a series of main concepts. You have a product owner. There are no managers. Okay, remember that this is an horizontal structure. There are no project manager like in traditional predictive methodologies. The product owner is the person who will be able to translate to the team the vision of the project that we were talking about last week. Okay? He will work with the team, with the Scrum team, in trying to develop in a very harmonic way the whole product or the whole project. But he doesn't decide what to do first or what to do last or how long the team is going to use. Okay? So he's part of the team, but he's not part of the team. He will be also in touch with the exterior world. The team is the group that will actually develop the whole project. Depending on the size of the team, you can have 3, 4, 5, 6 people. And they will decide how long they're going to take to do every single feature, every single user story that they accommodate from the vision that the product owner will give them. Okay? And then you have the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is one of the most important and difficult roles. The Scrum Master is the person who will facilitate every single thing for the project to be successful. He will be the person facilitating everything. He will be the person saying to the product owner that he doesn't have anything to do, any business to do with the internal workings. He will also say that there are no new user stories or elements within a sprint, which is one of the main characteristics of this methodology. So he will be the main facilitator. He works with the team the full time. Okay? So you will need these 3 functions working on your teams: a product owner, the team, and since your teams are going to be small, the product owner will have to do something also in here, and a different person will be the Scrum Master. Okay? Remove barriers, remove any element that will put the project in danger. And then you have these ideas. The product backlog. Backlog is the way in which you translate into specific items the vision for each sprint. Okay? What things are you going to do? The things that you have been doing today, doing the list, that's going to be your product backlog. You are going to have a single sprint. You're going to have 3 weeks to do whatever you decide to do on each of the projects. Okay? So you have to accommodate everything to a single sprint of 3 weeks. You have to do a sprint planning. So how do you translate the vision of the owner into specific items? And a sprint backlog as well. Okay? Then the normal thing when you are in a company is that the whole team meets first thing in the morning, and they have what is called a daily stand-up, because people are not supposed to sit down or think that they are going to be there for too long. They will be standing, and each of the members will report on what they are doing and how far they are in their objectives for that sprint. Okay? Those meetings are supposed to last less than 15 minutes. So when you meet, forget about brainstorming, forget about everything else. First 10 minutes, every single person says what she has done, what she is still to be doing, and how she is in the line of the sprint, depending on the things that she or he has to do with the planning. Okay? And then when you finish, you have 2 things: sprint review and the sprint retrospective. The sprint review is a meeting that you have with the product owner and with the clients, telling them and showing them what you have already done. Okay? Remember that we have moved away from the idea of just being working for 9 months, not seeing the customer until the end, and risking that you are developing something that he doesn't want or she doesn't want, and you screw over completely the whole project. We are delivering software or the projects or the ideas after every single sprint, so that we all are on the same page with the client, with the customers, and also within the team. And then after the external members of the team, the customers and the product owner have left, you will have a retrospective analyzing the technical aspects with the team of that sprint. That's an internal meeting, very short, what went wrong, what you can improve, what you can do faster or better for the next sprint, before planning for the new sprint backlog. Okay? Very fast, this is basically the template of how you have to organize yourself. Get the different functions of the team, get the vision that you will discuss and you will decide about, and then translate it into a product backlog, things that you have to do. Okay? Put them in a timeline, 3 weeks in this case, a sprint. Divide those into specific tasks. Okay? Every issue of the backlog into specific tasks. Okay? Every single time you meet, 15 minutes, no more. Don't waste time. What you have done, what you haven't done, what's still to be done. And at the end, before you submit, review it according to the original plan. Okay? And then, of course, if you want, you will have the retrospective to evaluate everything when you have the marks back. So you prepare better for the next assignment. The other method is called Kanban. And this is the method that is used in Toyota and other Japanese companies. Kanban is a double word, which means a visual card. Okay? This is a different thing because more than a specific methodology, it's a way to keep improving the form in which the thing works. Okay? Some basic ideas. The working area that you have should be able to accommodate visual cards like this or bigger so that everybody knows what everybody else is doing. Okay? Important about the visualization and about the design. It's a management system in which you only produce what the system really can take in. Okay? So the basic concept here is work in progress. This is what everybody in the team has to know every single minute. What is it that we are doing? Okay? The key here is that you have to limit what you can take in. So you forbid multitasking because it takes too much energy and effort to switch from one task to another. And you have people doing just one thing at the same time. Okay? You limit the work in progress by adding the tasks that you are doing with those tasks that are done but they are not reviewed or they have not been released. Okay? You always visualize the workflow with the cards, so you have everything, as I'll show you, in a single panel. Okay? You always try to improve the work panel, but you never put more things that you can really take. That's the basic thing. Okay? It's also an iterative process, so you are able to improve it over time. Okay? And for instance, in the case of Toyota, even if I'm not doing anything, you don't do anything until you receive a visual card in the production plant. It's always this system. The other thing that is very similar is the daycares that they use in IKEA. If you have been there, IKEA has daycares and they have, for instance, 50 vests, so that they will only take a maximum of 50 children at any given time. How do they know that they are doing what they are doing? Because they don't have any vests left at the entrance. And they will not take anyone else, any other children, any other child, until there is a new vest coming out and being available outside. Okay? So I'm working on this. I don't receive another one like this until I pass this to the done list. Okay? It's one of the most important things, especially in the kind of environment that we are working now, which we think that we can take more things in and that we are able to multitask. Calculations are that 20% of the energy and time are used when you switch from one task or one project to another. So it's a real waste of energy and resources for any group, even for yourself. Okay? The important thing for this kind of methodology to work, or one of the important things, is that you have at least one, in each team you have at least one or two T-shaped people, okay? T-shaped people are people who have a single vertical ability, very specialized, very particular, that it's only him or her that is able to do in the team. But that person is also able to reach out and do something horizontally, things that other members of the team also do. So you have these people who are flexible to do their thing, but also to help out in another part of the production of the project. Okay? How can you do this? And this is only an example, you can do anything. When you start your projects, use, this is not going to work. Use Trello.com. Trello.com is a simple panel in which you have 3 columns. One of them is to be done. Another thing is doing, and another column is done. It's free. That's me. Okay. In this case, we have an extra column, or ideas that they are not made into features or elements. Yes, things to do. You have who is going to do it, details, comments, and you also have the possibility of adding the date when that's due. You have doing, so things that the team is doing at this point, and then you have review and done, so the team can see the progress and they can see that they have been doing stuff and they have been solving issues. Okay. Another more simple panel is just made out of, no, this is not it, sorry. Just 3 lists. To do, with the dates, who is going to do it, what is being done, and what we have already done. Okay? Anyone in the team can interact, can create new cards. Anyone can just drag them to wherever it is that it needs to be done, etc. And you have a visual panel that the whole team can interact with.
So you want us to use this for the...
Or anyone. This is an example. It's free, and that's why we are using it. Okay, but there are many other services there. But use one of these, anyone, okay?